morning. So it is Monday morning, a little after 8 o'clock, and I just got in from the garden. And I have a few handfuls of jalapenos that were ready to go this morning. And there are enough that I don't think that we're gonna get to eat all of these before they go bad. And there's nothing worse than working so hard in the garden to grow your own food and then it rotting and going to waste. And so I really think Joe would be upset to waste some jalapenos. He loves jalapenos on burgers, on tacos, in beans. He loves jalapenos. And so because I don't want these to go bad, I think I'm gonna can them. Now, used to, I would think that I needed a lot of produce in order to can because it just seemed like such a pain and like it would take so long to do that you would do it in large batches. But I have learned that instead of letting our produce go bad, it's better just to do small batch canning when you can, and it really doesn't take very long. The first time I did it, I was shocked at how fast it really was. And so I think that's what I'm gonna do this morning, and I just kind of wanna show you guys how I take produce that could go bad, and I don't think we're gonna get to, spend maybe 20 minutes, and go ahead and just can it and store it, and then you have it ready, fresh, ready to go in the pantry whenever you get ready for it. And you don't waste your hard work in the garden throwing this kind of thing out. So anyway, I'm gonna show you how I do small batch canning. And I have just 3 jars left in my stash. That's so sad. I need to go get some more jars. But these are the 3 jars that I have left that haven't been used. And I'm not really even sure what size these are. I know they're the wide mouth jars, but they're kind of small, like a jelly jar. Now I'm just using what I have. I'll go to the store later this week maybe and see if I can find some more jars, but this is what I have for now. So that's what I'm gonna use. I have 3, and I am just gonna see how many of these I can fit in here. And you'll be surprised, these will get smaller as they cook. So, you hear my rooster? So funny. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and start by taking the top off of the jalapeno. I'm just gonna chop off the tops of all of my jalapenos. And our rooster knows it's morning too. He's trying to wake everybody up. He says, get out of bed, get the day started. Now our rooster's name is Rooney, and he is such a sweet boy. We've had mean roosters before, and man, it's just not any fun when you have a mean rooster. So we got rid of those, and this little guy, actually, it's a funny story. I'll tell you the story of our rooster. So this little guy showed up one day. We had a hen that ran away, and I thought maybe something had eaten her. And just kind of, you know, they free range out in the yard and in the pasture. So there's on an occasion a time that we will lose one. And so I really thought she was gone. And she was gone for probably 3 weeks. And we didn't see her, and so I just kind of thought she had left. But anyway, she was gone for 3 weeks, and one day she showed back up, and with her was a little baby chick. Now she had gone broody. She wanted to sit on a nest of eggs, and I wouldn't let her. I didn't want her hatching chicks, and so I would have to pick her up off the nest every day, and she would be so mad at me. And so I guess she just kind of threw a hissy fit and left home and went out somewhere and hid and hatched an egg. Came back with her chick with her. Well, of course, I can't say no to a baby anything. And so I made her a special little space in the coop for her to raise her little chick. And wouldn't you know it, it wasn't a hen. She had a little rooster. And so our other rooster was getting kind of aggressive with Lucy, so we had to get rid of him. And this little guy, I was bound and determined to make him friendly. And so because he was so little, I would take the chance in the evenings when they would go to roost, I would go in and I would hold him and pet him and talk to him and feed him out of my hand, and just really made him really, really friendly and sweet. And so now we have a really big, beautiful rooster out there that doesn't really necessarily like cuddles, but he is not aggressive at all. And he just takes such good care of his girls. And we have some baby chicks out there right now that we let some hens hatch. And he is just the sweetest daddy. It is so cool to watch the hens and him take care of the chicks and protect them. It's just so neat. But now I love my rooster, Rooney. Joe, not so much, and I'll tell you why. Joe likes to take naps. When he's off, he'll take an afternoon nap. Well, I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense, but Rooney knows when Joe lays down to take a nap. And he will go to our bedroom window, and our heads are at the window, right? So like our heads are up against the window pretty much. And he will go to the window and he just crows the middle of the day. And he goes over and just starts crowing so obnoxiously. And Joe swears that he knows what he's doing. So it's funny. Joe has a love-hate relationship with the rooster. I absolutely love him. And honestly, I just don't know if we could even consider this a farm if we didn't have a rooster crowing. It feels so, I don't know, just more farm-like, I guess, because we have a little rooster walking around crowing, and it's just fun. We love our rooster, Mr. Rooney. So I am going to continue to chop these. You see, I'm not chopping them real thick. I think maybe like, maybe half an inch thick, maybe a little bit less than half. It's really up to maybe your taste. I wouldn't slice them too thin because you want them to hold up. We're gonna cook these, and we're actually gonna technically pickle them. And so you're gonna want them to hold up in the cooking mixture and not just fall apart. I know Joe, when he likes jalapenos out of the jar, he likes them to be in the circle, in this form. And so I'm cutting them, I'm gonna say maybe half an inch. I'm not real good at eyeballing it, but that's what I'm gonna say. So I'm just gonna get the rest of these chopped up, and then I am going to get the rest of the ingredients and start cooking these. And while I cook these is while I will prepare my jars and my lids, the rings and the lids themselves. Now I'm gonna have to divert to Ball, and Ball is just the authority, I believe, on canning. And so I'm gonna let you watch me can. But it's really important that when you can produce, you find the proper technique and time. Now, because these have vinegar and I'm pickling them and I'm cooking them, I'm just gonna do a water bath can. I have never pressure canned before. I would love to, but I'm kind of terrified of it. I probably need to get a friend over here to show me how to pressure can. I'm not real comfortable with it. So I always hot water bath can, but in my defense, I've really only ever done relish, pickled vegetables, and jellies and jams. So I've never I've never canned, rather, fresh vegetables that I haven't pickled, and there's no vinegar and things like that, no acid in it. I probably need to learn that. I make a salsa that I really like, and I'll share that recipe at some point and how I make it. But it's a fresh salsa, and I've never tried to can it because I don't want to add any vinegar or anything like that to it, because I just love the way it tastes fresh. And so I would like to pressure can, so maybe I could can that fresh salsa. Anyway, I have my jalapenos all chopped up here in little circles, and I am gonna go get the rest of the ingredients and get the pot ready. So before I cook these and I get started on all the canning things, I wanna show you, you're gonna actually need pots, 3 pots of varying sizes. Now the first one that I do is I do a very small little pot. This is a 1.5 quart. But I mean, you could go even smaller, just something that you can fill and boil water. And in this, I am gonna put my lids. And I am going to fill this with water. And I'm gonna keep these boiling to keep these things very hot and sanitized. We don't want any bacteria inside of our cans. There are dangers of botulism, and we just don't want all this to spoil. We're going through all this trouble to grow it, prepare it, and can it. We don't want it to spoil. So make sure that you're being very careful to sanitize and boil your lids as you're canning. I'm gonna use another pot, like a saucepan, and this doesn't have to be very big because I don't have that many jalapenos. This is probably actually a little bit overkill for what I need, and this is a 5 quart. So this is just, you could probably do a 3 quart with just the amount of jalapenos that I have right here. But this is what I'm gonna use to cook the jalapenos in. So that's that. And then this is what I have, and this is not a traditional canning pot. You see, this is just a stock pot, and I'll tell you why. I have a glass top electric stove. Now you have to be very careful water bath canning on an electric glass top stove because traditional canning pots will have an indentation on the bottom where air can be trapped. And when you use that on a glass top stove, it can crack the top of your stove. And so I was told, and it's been good advice because I've not broken my stove yet, to make sure and get a pot big enough that has a very flat bottom so that air doesn't get trapped between the glass on your electric stove and the pot itself. It's just big enough. I probably need a bigger one, but this is what I use and it works well, especially when I do small batch canning. This works very well. And I'll show you the basket that I use inside of this to make it a hot bath canning pot. Okay, so here it is. This is my canning basket. I believe the brand is Norpro. You can get these at Walmart, a lot of grocery stores. I believe I purchased this on Amazon. I had a really hard time finding canning stuff in the store when I needed one of these. And so I believe I ordered this on Amazon. If I can find it on Amazon, I'll link to it. But this is a basket that you set in the bottom of your pot, and these handles will fall to the side, and you place your cans in here. Now this is rather small. You can see that most of what I do is small batch canning, and this works great for that. It also fits very nicely into my soup pot, and that was the most important thing, finding one that would fit, because there are larger ones, I believe, but this one just fits very nicely down into my stock pot, and then I can easily lift it out with these handles on the side. Okay, so that's what I use. And then I also wanted to show you my Norpro 6-piece canning set. Now these are everywhere. Everywhere that sells jars and food preservation pretty much is gonna have some type of canning set like this. I'm not sure, I may have bought this at Walmart or Amazon. Once again, if I find it on Amazon, I'll link to it so that you can find it easily. Now I find that this doesn't fit back in here very well. You kind of have to cram it in there, and I use this actually for so many things. I fill a lot of jars, and this is like a really good multi-purpose funnel. So I use it for other things. It usually stays outside of the box. But in this box, you're gonna get a magnetic lid lifter. And that is for these. These are gonna be really hot in the boiling water, and you have a lid lifter that's magnetic that you can just stick down in the pot and pull these out. So you don't have to burn your hands to get these out of the boiling water and put them on your jars. You also have vinyl coated tongs, a vinyl coated jar wrench. You have a bubble popper / measurer, so you can measure the head space on the top of the jars. And when you hot water bath can, there are certain rules on different types of food, different types of processes, how much head space you need to leave in the top of the jar. So how much air space on top of the food that you put in. and then where it meets the top of the jar. That's called headspace. And so this will help you measure that. It also pops bubbles, especially like in your jellies and your jams and things. You can get rid of the bubbles with that. And then there is, of course, the funnel. And then there's also the vinyl coated jar lifter, which I don't know how you would can without one. That is an absolute necessity to have a jar lifter. And this is a pretty good set. Now this is probably nowhere near the top of the line, but I don't can all the time. And like I said, just do small batches. So this works well for my use. I've not had any problems with any of this stuff. The only issue that I kind of have is that our water is really hard here. And so, especially like on my basket, you can see probably, I don't know if you can see, but I get hard water deposits on this. And so occasionally I need to just soak this in some hot vinegar water to get those hard water deposits off. Now we're gonna move on, and I have a recipe that I've kind of played with, and I will post this recipe down below in the description box, so you'll have this particular recipe. And I have pared this down for a small batch. You can increase this for larger batches, and if you have an even smaller batch, you can pare it down. I have my jalapenos, so now to that, I need 1 clove of garlic minced. I only use fresh garlic. I don't buy the jarred garlic, and I honestly never have. So it's not like I have anything against jarred garlic. I've just never bought jarred garlic. I love fresh garlic, and I love keeping it on hand. So I make a lot of salsas. I make a lot of my own sauces, put it on bread and pizza sauce, whatever. Like, I use it in so many things. Garlic and onions are things that I just keep in the pantry because I use so many of them. So I am just gonna get this clove opened up here, and I always cut off this little woody end. You can feel it's kind of rough. I just usually slice that off. Now I am not Emeril Lagasse with chopping. I probably just move slow as Christmas, but I have a habit of cutting myself, so I just go slow. I'm not in any rush, right? And I think with cooking, a lot of times that I've, been frustrated with cooking or something, it's because I try to do it so fast and I just try to get it done, right? Like, we're busy, we're moms, we're wives, we have homes. A lot of you guys have jobs, and you work outside the home. And I have been there. I know, like, you just want to get dinner on the table. And so cooking isn't fun. It's kind of a chore. It's kind of a pain. But I found, like, if I have time to cook, I really have to tell myself to slow down and just enjoy the process, right? And so if you can slow down and just enjoy the process of cooking, it'll make it so much better. It really does. Now, it's something I have to remind myself of a lot, because even I, as a stay-at-home mom, even I have times where it's like, oh, I just want to get people fed. I just got to get this done. It really sucks the fun out of it and the joy out of it. Okay, now we are going to cook our jalapenos, get them ready for canning. And I have, once again, I'm going to put this recipe down below so you don't have to write any of this down. I have a cup of water. And to that, I'm gonna add a cup of just regular distilled white vinegar. 1 cup. Then I'm gonna need 1 tablespoon of salt. Seems like a lot of salt, doesn't it? Whew, yeah, because it is. Okay, and then 1 tablespoon of sugar. I guess we're balancing it. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. 1 tablespoon of sugar. And we have our 1 clove that I've minced of garlic. So I'm gonna put that in. To this, I'm just gonna scoop up and add my jalapenos to the pot. And we do want the seeds. A lot of the heat in the jalapenos is in the seeds. My husband likes a little spice. Now it's not gotten real hot here yet, and so these jalapenos are not likely to be super hot. When it gets a little hotter outside, these jalapenos will probably start to turn a little red. I've fertilized them pretty well, and there's something about it getting hot outside that makes these little things get even hotter, and you can tell because the skin will start to turn red or brown, and that's kind of one indication that your jalapeno is gonna be pretty hot. I have one in here that's turned a little bit brown and it has a little red tinge to it. So that's probably a hot little puppy there. But I just chop them up and throw them in. It should be good. I know a lot of the men in my life like a hot pepper. So now you can see that the water and vinegar, that mixture is just covering these jalapenos, and that's great because these jalapenos are gonna shrink down a little bit as they cook. So I'm gonna take this and I am gonna put it on high heat, and I am going to bring it all to a boil. And then I'm going to, once these jalapenos will start to lose their color, they will get like a really dull green, like a brownish green, and that's when you know that they're done. So you're gonna boil them until they turn a dull brownish green, and then you're gonna remove them from the heat and let them sit for 15 minutes. Okay, so we have our lids in this pot, and I covered the lids. It's probably got 2 to 3 inches of water on top of these lids. I like to put a lot of water in here because I know these are gonna be boiling for a long time, and so that water is gonna reduce. So the canning rack is inside of my pot, and the water is not yet boiling. So I am going to insert my jars into this water. Now I just pulled these out of the dishwasher this morning, but I really want them to be super sanitized. I really like to kind of overdo it with the sanitizing of the jars, and so I'm gonna go ahead and boil these in my pot. So I'm gonna stick them in here and bring it to a boil just to sanitize them, make sure I've killed all of that bacteria. Okay, so I'm just gonna let these go, and I will show you when the jalapenos are done what they look like, but it's gonna take these pots some time to come up to a boil and heat up enough. There's quite a bit of water in this pot, and it's pretty big, so it takes a little time to boil. Okay, so while we're waiting, I wanna show you guys this shirt that I got this weekend at Atwood's. Now, if you know me at all, you know I don't shop or buy tons of clothes. So I got a new t-shirt and I'm kind of excited about it. It was like $8 or $9 or something. So it says, God made, Jesus saved, and farm raised. And I hope that's not backwards for you guys. It might be. But anyway, I love this shirt. If you like it too, go to Atwood's. They had a whole bunch of them. So anyway, oh, and I like to buy my shirts like really big. I don't know about you guys, but I go up like 2 sizes because I like to swim in them. They're not comfy if they're like stuck to me. Also makes me feel not as chubby when I wear a big shirt. Anyway. Okay, so we've let our jalapenos rest for 15 minutes, and our jars have boiled for a while over here. So I'm gonna take my tongs and I'm gonna pull out my jars. Now these are super hot, and you know what glass does with sudden temperature change. So I use one of these really cool drying mats. Now it's cushioned, and I like to take my jars out and set them on this cushioned mat that absorbs the water. I think it's like a dish drying rack, but it works really well. I love to have this for canning. And I also love that if I get something yucky on it, I can just throw this into the washing machine and the dryer and bring it back out. It's a really nice thing to have. So if you don't have one of those, you can use like some large towels and just set your jars on a large towel, and I would double it over, make it kind of cushioned, especially if you have like a glass or a granite countertop. You don't want to bust jars. Okay, so I'm gonna actually turn these upside down so a lot of that water can drip out. These are super hot jars. They've been boiling a while. So they should be nice and clean, killing all that bacteria on there. And I'm gonna let this water continue to boil because we're gonna be filling these jars and putting them right back in the same basket. Okay, so I have 3 of these jars, and I don't know that I'm gonna need all of them. This really isn't that many jalapenos, but went ahead and prepared 3, and we'll see. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my funnel. Now these jars are pretty short, but it really helps keep things clean if you go ahead and just put the funnel on the top. And I am gonna take a spoon and I'm just gonna scoop in jalapenos. And you're gonna want some juice in each of these jars as well, so make sure you can get plenty of liquid. You want the liquid to cover them pretty well. And remember I talked before about head space, and so we're gonna need, it says 1/4 inch of head space in these jars. So I'm gonna fill these, and then I will use my little bubble popper spatula thing. I don't know if you can see, but there are measurements. You probably can't see, it's kind of hard, but there are measurements on each one of these notches that'll help you measure how much head space is in your jar. So you'll set that on the side of the jar and it'll measure for you how much space you have, air space between the food and the top of the jar. So I'll do that in just a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and get these jars filled. A little bit more liquid in this one. Yeah, I might have 2 jars worth. And if I don't have enough to process the last can, like if it runs over 2 cans and runs into 3, but it doesn't fill the 3rd one, what I typically do is just fill it as far as it'll go. And then I just stick it in the fridge and we eat them fresh. And so they'll last a little while in the fridge without being canned, without being processed. And I'll just ask Joe to eat those first. Put just a little bit more juice, and then I'm going to measure my head space. And this first notch is actually 1/4 inch, which is what we need. And wow, right on the money. That's awesome. That's perfect. Okay, so I have my, don't want to grab this with my bare hands. I always do that. Anybody else like grab, you know the pan's hot and you grab it anyway? Okay, so there's about 1/4 inch of head space there. You can see the jalapenos are covered in the liquid. And that's pretty good, looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my magnetic lid, what do they call it? A magnetic lid lifter. And I'm gonna take it and I am going to stick it down here, in here, and it's gonna grab one of these lids out of this boiling water for me. And I just set it on the top, line it up, and I take one of my rings, and I'm gonna screw it down on tight. Now I always over tighten these and then I have to have Joe take the lids off for me. I mean, that's kind of one of his roles, isn't it? That's, I don't know if it's in the Bible, but I'm pretty sure that's one of their roles as men, is to open the jars. Okay, so you can see I have my lid tight and on, and I have my jar lifter, my nifty jar lifter. I'm gonna get a tight grip on it, and I'm gonna lower it into the water bath canning pot. And I like to make sure I have at least 1 inch or 2 of water on top of the jar. So when you put it down in the pot, you need at least 1 inch or 2 of water on top of the jars to make sure that that hot water is all around that jar and it can roll the hot water all around it and get a really good seal. And the ball canning book, and I'll show you the one I'm using. This is really neat. Okay, so Joe's grandmother gave this to me, and it is really old. It was 35 cents, if that tells you how old it is. And I forget, it says in here circa 1966. So I'm sorry, it's not really old. If you were born in 66, you're not old. Just saying, for a book, a little paper-bound book, it's old. Stuck my foot in my mouth then, didn't I? Oh well, anyway, so this is a really cool book, and this is the Blue Book Easy Guide to Tasty, Thrifty Home Canning and Freezing. So I just looked in the back at peppers, and these are technically called a pickled pepper because we're using vinegar, and it said page 58. And here it tells me at the bottom, it tells me to leave 1/4 inch of head space, and then it says process 10 minutes in boiling water bath. Okay, so this also has a recipe on here. I don't use the recipes. I more use this for just the processing of it. And this is the Authority ball. So you can go online actually. Now we're, you know, not 1966 anymore. Don't necessarily need this, but I like to do things the old-fashioned way. And honestly, I love, every time I can, I got this little book and I think of Grandma Marge, and I just love her. She's the sweetest woman. My adoptive grandmother through marriage. I love her to death. So I just like to think of her anytime that I can. Anyway, there is a small poem in the back of here that I will share with you when we get done that I think is kind of funny. So anyway, let's get back to canning. Okay, so my suspicions were confirmed. I got another whole jar, which makes 2. I'll put that in the canning bath in just a minute. But I also have this one that has a lot more liquid in it than jalapenos, so it's not really a full jar, and it's got way too much headspace in it. And so I don't really want to can this. I don't know that I'll get a proper seal on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get one of these lids out. It's actually my last one, so I'll turn my water off. Get one of these lids out, put it on, and this guy is gonna go in the fridge. We're not gonna water bath can it. It's not gonna be sealed, so don't put this in your pantry. If you're not gonna water bath can it, it's not sealed. It won't stay shelf stable. So just put this in the fridge, and then, you know what? I'll make tacos tonight or something, and then Joe can enjoy some of these tonight. Okay, so I got that one in the fridge. I'm gonna lower this one in the water bath, and like I said, we're gonna do these, process these for 10 minutes. And you want to make sure when you put multiple jars into the canning pot that the jars are not tight and they're not bumping up against each other, because they can burst, and you don't want that. It's very dangerous. These have gone for their 10 minutes or a little over actually, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn the heat off, and I'm going to grab my jar lifters again, and I am going to pull gently, very gently, pull out the jars and put them on my drying pad over here on the counter. And make sure you have a good grip. You don't want to drop these because they will shatter. Okay, set it gently on the drying rack. Now see, I ended up with 2 jars total. Very small batch canning, but it's worth it. 1 jar of these will last in the pantry. They will store for up to 3 to 5 years when pickled and then canned like this. Now, ours won't last that long because Joe's gonna eat them. But if you needed something to last that long, this is a pretty great thing to jar and to pickle. 3 to 5 years. Now, the one that I put in the fridge, it is pickled and there's vinegar in it, so there's that acid, and staying refrigerated, even though they're not sealed in the jars, it'll last up to 6 months in the fridge. So that's great. Now, like I said, it won't last that long because Joe will eat them. But if you needed it to last a while, about 6 months, you don't even have to go through the trouble of water bath canning them. You can just pickle them and then put them in the fridge. If you're gonna eat them within 6 months, that's a great option. So I'm gonna let these sit. They're not sealed yet. There's still a lot of pressure under this lid because it's so hot. As they cool, it will seal up the can, and you will hear it seal a lot of times. You can hear a distinct pop sound of the top of the lid, but they need to sit and cool for quite a long time before you put them in your pantry. I usually give them 3 or 4 hours at a minimum to just sit and cool down before I store them away. And you always want to make sure that they are sealed, and you'll be able to see an indentation in the top of this lid that lets you know that it has been sealed properly. So we're going to let these cool, and I wanted to share with you the little story in the back of the ball book. So I was raised with a deep appreciation for homemaking and all the things old-fashioned. I had wonderful grandmothers and great-grandmothers who would teach me things, let me cook with them, and let me hang clothes on the line and do all of those fun homemaking things as a little girl. And so I really grew to have such an appreciation for all things old-fashioned. So this little story or prose in the back of this book makes me giggle because I think so much, especially of my great-grandmothers and a little bit of my grandmothers, about their approach in their marriages to their husband. So I'm gonna turn this fan off so you can hear me better. Here we go. That's better, isn't it? Okay, so this is how to preserve a husband. Pretty cute, right? Okay, it says, be careful in your selection. Do not choose too young. When selected, give your entire thoughts to preparation for domestic use. Some wives insist upon keeping them in a pickle. Others are constantly getting them into hot water. This may make them sour, hard, and sometimes bitter. Even poor varieties may be made sweet, tender, and good by garnishing them with patience, well sweetened with love, and seasoned with kisses. Wrap them in a mantle of charity. Keep warm with a steady fire of domestic devotion, and serve with peaches and cream. Thus prepared, they will keep for years. Anyway, I thought that was really cute. I'll type that up and put it in this description box in case you wanted to share it. There's no author to this listed in here. So it just came from the Ball Blue Book, circa 1966. Really cute book. If you see one of these at a yard sale, grab it, snatch it up, and you're likely to get it for 35 cents. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope I shared something of value with you. And if you would, just like this video, and if you'd like to see more content like this, leave a comment down below and say, yes, this is what we want to see, so I can make more videos like this and share more recipes and food preservation with you. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day. Happy Monday if it's Monday where you are. It's definitely a Monday here. So have a blessed day. I love you, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.